And today I will talk about the hyperlinguistic transformation of science fiction films, the embodied narration and broadcasting of AI. So this is a collaborative research. I collaborate with Professor Chen Tao from Literature School of Renmin University, and also the master student Sun Xuehao, also from Art School Renmin University of China. Myself and Professor Chen also the researchers of Digital Humanities of Research Center in RUC. So basically, this is a paper treats AI as a fourth level of symbolic system. So we call it the code of codes. And actually, our perspective is more from the aesthetics of philosophy and to re-archiving the spectrum of science fiction films from 1960s until now. So we want to more focus on the language dimension. And here there are three parts of this research. The first one is we put the context of post-human era, and we will see the language-body relationship is a digital myth of this time. And one of the innovation of this paper, we think we first regard AI as the code of the codes, which depends on there are already three levels of the language, but we see how AI became the fourth level of this codes and language. Finally, we want to connect it more with the theory of cybernetics. We talk about the images in science fiction films and elaborate more about embodiment and the reflexivity and virtue of the AI in these films. So actually, our starting point is from the 1940s, because at that time, the important conference, MEKI. At this stage, there are several important scientists, engineers, and through their collaboration and debate, I think information became a more accurate forms, and this theory actually reflected and shaped in the later on science fiction text and science fiction films. So here are two charts of this paper. Firstly, we divided three stages of cybernetics theory. And we saw these kind of each stage, they have a characteristic. For example, the first one is about dynamic balance. And the second stage is about the reflexivity. And the third one is about virtue. But actually, almost after 10 years of each stage in cybernetic theory, there are reflection, sometimes in a reverse form in science fiction. We can see the body functions reflect the dynamic balance theory. And we can also see how AI image in films connect more with emotions and memories and dreams. And also after 2000 year, there are more virtual reality with AI image because of the digital animation production in the film industry. So this is the second point or second innovation of this paper, which we call the code of the codes. We want to propose the perspective of aesthetics because we can see the first level is natural language in our world. Then we human beings have our written language, but they have different forms, depends on different country or culture. But also we have sometimes the third level, artificial language, which is kind of like universal one. For example, the code in the computer, 0 and number 1 became the basic elements of the artificial language, and also some other elements language of chemistry. But in this paper, we want to focus on if AI can be see the code of codes because they were learning from artificial language, or actually they are the kind of creation of the artificial language. So they can be AI, maybe they also have a chance to create their own language proposed by the science fiction films. And we will re-archiving these films as a new document or kind of important archiving materials for AI image and the imagination and understanding about AI. So we should back to the context of post-humanism. So post-humanism actually composed of the not only see the human being at the center of the world and the universe. We should focus more on the other form of our Earth life, also the robots, the machine, and the alien creatures, which also include AI. So post-humanism have shared a similar post-structuralism, post-modernism, and the core of this ideology theory is to question and criticize the centralism of only to regard human as the highest hierarchy of the world. And we can see during the criticism, the language, the discourse is very important. So this is the innovation of this paper to review or recarving the time-space map of cybernetic theory and to see the different three stages of the theory, what the connection with the later on science fiction text or science fiction films to reflect these three stages of the cybernetic theory. So first stage of the three waves of cybernetics actually between 1945 to 1960s, which focus on dynamic balance. But we can see later on during 1970s, there are three important films of Star Wars from 1977 to 1980s. This reverse construct can be the imbalance of robots, the popular R2 and C3PO, even though they're quite popular and they're quite cute, but actually the film exaggerate their mechanism movement. For example, their movement actually are imbalanced and their language are very slow and kind of like very funny. So this can reflect to the Star Wars, the portraits of this machine can be reflect to the classic silent film, modern times. So Chaplin at this time actually to focus on actually human movements are more natural, but big machine time, they are more alienation of the human beings. So we can see this kind of portrait actually show the hierarchy of human is actually higher than the machine. And I think this continually shaped the image of the narration path of this artificial intelligence in the science fiction films. Because no matter Blade Runner, the first one, or the Bicentennial Man or the Her, all these image of the robot or AI in the films, they are pursue their struggles and their love. And actually they all belongs to the free will. And it has the root and original meaning reflect to robot because it comes from the Jack word and it's actually the meaning about slave. So later on, we can see the main narration or a dramatic conflict in the films about AI or robot. Actually, they are destined to seek freedom like the slave in the reality. But we want to see actually here, the image of AI shaped on the big screen. They are coming from the force of computer after 1980. Because 1982 is the first time computer became the cover image or cover man of the Time magazine. And after 20 years, computer of the Apple new product became again the cover of the New York Times. But here has a gap, which is many people not influenced or focused on, which is 1995. Actually, at that time, the CEO of Apple, Jobs, kind of collaborate with Pixar, and they pushed the first long feature animation in 3D animation, named Story. This series are very successful. And actually, it also constructs the basic foundation of 3D animation in the feature-long film. So from that time, many artificial intelligence images actually were shaped and constructed digitally from the film industry. So we can see the dimension of the dimensional memory became the main characteristic of the stage from 1980s in the science fiction film, because it is a reflection of cybernetic theory, which is about reflexivity. And in the films, even though at that time the digital is just doing their foundation, but there are many pioneering engineers and animation artists. They collaborate with the directors so they can show different forms of AI, no matter in Spielberg's AI or the English film Bicentennial Man. So we can see important example is AI in 2000. Yeah, this is a pioneer work for human actors can play AI image, because in the beginning, in the title sequence of the film, there's a female robot named Sheila. She is looking very similar like a real human, but with digital animation, people can see their detailed mechanism of the inside structure. That is a basic for the actor of a boy can act the very touching image of AI David. So we can see from the connection of David and his human being mother, Monica. Actually, their touching and relationship is because of language. And we can see this is also a transformation of linguistic transformation of linguistic in the science field about AI. We can see a small clip of this part.
No, you couldn't hear the voice. Share the voice, please. Yeah, maybe should share the voice of video.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe the connection of the computer is not good, but there are actually the English subtitles, so we can see actually Monique touched David by a button. And the touching of relationship connection is based on the keywords. So they need the language connection and the eye contact connection to confirm their relationship of a son and a mommy. And we can see the name of philosophy. So we can see actually after the keywords of the animal, the philosophy, and some a flower, the David can ask the question with what are these words for, mommy? So he already confirmed the relationship between himself and his mother, Monica. So this is also an important moment in the science fiction film about AI, because language became a very important link between human beings and AI. So I think this is a very important bridge between the first stage and the third stage. Now we can see actually after the stage, they are kind of back to the beginning of the robot time. And this time, not very important, many real human beings act the image of AI, but back to the digitally mechanism of AI. So like chapping the film and iRobot. This is also very digital spectacles based on the mass production of digital animation during the 2000 year. But we see a different branch, and this very important and unique example of the film about AI, which is Her. And because in this film, there's no real image of the Her as an AI. It is only a voice of the language AI system. So we can see in this film, the voice software named Samantha. And the name of this AI system is self-named, and she telling the main character, she choose from so many names in very quick time, only 0.02 seconds. But Samantha is not just an operating system, but she has a self-consciousness in a sense in this film. So we can see it's not an isolated example, because the director of Her is also the director of Being John Malkovich since the late of 1990s. So with Her, director Spike Jonze continues his exploration of the universe of thought. But the methods he revealed the universe of thought is by the language. So he relieved the thought-language relationship from the autonomous living system of Samantha. But eventually, this system leaves the human body and the soft body in which was first conceived digitally, but finally the human being have no idea where Samantha is, because they are going to a more higher hierarchy world, maybe heaven. Very interesting to see in the daily work of the main character in the film, Her, is writing letters, including thankful letters, even love letters. He is such a good writer, so even though he haven't experienced the real events of the letters, he can connect his own experience and turning them into very emotional and touching letters. So he's a good worker for writing letters, which also connect with how written language in the dimension of human being compare with the digital language of Samantha. But finally, Samantha, as the code of codes, has its own consciousness and desire to leave the vehicle of human beings prepare for her. They finally collectively, I think, fly to another place. So here we can see language is not only a vehicle for expressing desire. The language is desire itself. So in the perspective of the film, fiction film, we can see actually if AI can be basically created from the language, maybe they have potential to create their own language because they have the desire of the language structure. But finally, I also want to mention, even though Her is a quite unique example and a good film for portray the female image of AI, but it also shows some homogeneity in the digital film production, especially after the year of 2010. So no matter Her or the film, The Congress, or the second film of Blade Runner, 2049, we can see all the beautiful woman image with the connection of AI. And this beautiful woman image is kind of like a danger object. And they seem to backtrace to the Hitchcock style, because in the suspense style of the Hitchcock films, the female characters are always reduced to the fatal attraction objects for the man. So we should be careful about this kind of stereotype of female characters of AI. And I think it's not only a challenge for shaping the AI with gender studies, it's also a challenge for the digital animation and digital film industry, because many of these different films, actually, they are collaborate with the same workshop or studio of animation or digital production. So that's why they show some homogeneity. So which means we should focus on different style and artistic pursuit of the film industry and animation in digital world. So which is the final, I think it's not really conclusion, is that how we can face the challenge of the stereotype of AI, also the stereotype of science fiction films. Maybe we should focus on the cross-disciplinary research, which means we can combine language studies, image studies, memory studies, and digital media studies to push not only vision and audio, but also taste, smell, and touch about the real connections or the real relationship between human beings and AI. It should also collaborate and cross-disciplinary team and community. Yes, this is my topic. Thank you so much. And